Hi, everybody. I'm Jay Widener. You're watching Cosmic Disclosure, and we're back with our guest, Jason Rice. Hey, Jason.
Hi, Jay. Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, it's great having you. In a previous episode, you talked at length about the 20 and back procedure, and I was wondering if there's anything you want to add about that so that people can understand it better.
Certainly. The career return program, which I was a part of, is also known by a great many others as the 20 and back program.
Oh, so wait, you did not know it as the 20 and back?
That's correct. We did not refer to it as a 20 and back. We referred to it as a career return, which is indicative of having a career and returning. So CR.
It sounds like a military kind of term.
Sure. The whole process of a career return was to give the soldiers an opportunity to have and build on the last experience and training so that they could develop further training and skills and pass those on to other soldiers that are also part of the career return program.
Before you did your career return, you did 20 years into the secret space program. During your time, how many different ET groups did you meet? And I guess we should also include hybrids and things that were created. How many did you meet, do you think?
During the entire career return program, there were 2 different ETs on Planet 1. There were 2 more on Planet 2, and there were 3 more on Planet 3. There were also other ETs that we were working with during the training period at the very beginning of my career return, and as well as at the very end of my career return when I was on the other side of the fence as a trainer.
And you worked with other ET groups as a trainer?
That's correct. The ET that we referred to as Charlie during the initial first day coming into the underground cave facility.
The first ET you actually ever saw.
The very first one that I had at that point recalled, because I had seen and worked with others during the desensitization program training. The first one that I'd seen and recalled up to that point, his name was Charlie. That's the name that we had given to him, and he didn't have a problem with being called Charlie. He was a typical gray, and his presence and work with us in the FIG, the Fort Indian Town Gap Cave Facility, was one in which he was a resource for us, in which sometimes we would ask, okay, what do you think about using such and such a tactic? And he would help and provide his opinion or thoughts on those tactics.
How did you communicate with him?
Mentally.
What's an EBEN?
Extraterrestrial biological entity.
So he was like a consultant.
Yeah.
In a way.
A 1099 consult.
Did you ever ask him what planet he was from or anything like that?
When we asked him, he would point. And wouldn't,
the sky?
Yeah, he just wouldn't give us the name. And I think that was part of the compartmentalization.
Was he benevolent?
He certainly behaved as if he was, from his friendly interactions. After working for several years with Charlie, you can't help but like the sense of humor. It's got an alien way of thinking about things, but still an endearing aspect to him.
So tell us about your first encounters when you first got to Planet 1. You meet these people, these ETs from another planet, and what was it like when you first met them?
Going to Planet 1, and our first mission was one of intel recon, in which we were dispatched to go into this city in which we had named Area 26,
right,
as a delegation from a faraway city, far enough away that they couldn't ask the neighbor to run and ask questions about who we were. It was far enough away that we caravanned with a lot of supplies and goods that we had purported to be bringing from this faraway city, in which we'd wanted to start establishing a trade route.
Right.
And so the interactions and the welcomings that we'd received, because it was me and my entire platoon that were there. Now, we weren't all staying in the same building or even in the same neighborhood. We had spread ourselves out strategically across the city in groups of 3 or 4, and we were all within 5 minutes distance of another team. Now, the furthest teams would have taken a lot longer than that to get to us if we had a need for a backup. But so we didn't all arrive at the same place at the same time, as we felt that that would have been too coincidental and may have raised some suspicions. So we had people that trickled in after, some people that trickled in days after. So it appeared that it was random. And the welcome that we received was one that was very warm, real friendly. The ETs, humanoids of Planet One, had not known a war in generations. So their concepts of acceptance and friendliness and what we would consider, being neighborly, was something that was profoundly different for a number of my soldiers, because growing up in a large city or a large metropolitan area, you just don't have that kind of open welcome. How are they different from Earth humans in the way they carried out their activities? They were genuinely interested in the community, in pushing forth that. And I think you'd have to go back into Earth history's past, where you have small colony-sized elements of people that are living far away from other civilizations, where it is of enormous benefit for them to work together. Planet 2, their social structure and how the family unit was set up was different than what we were accustomed to, in that between 3 and 4 different couples were considered a family.
Right.
And they considered each other their husbands or their wives. So that was also a vastly different characteristic between the humanoids on Planet 2 as well as the humans from Earth. And then on Planet 3, a prior existence of organized crime on that planet meant that there were already existing some of the seedier and darker sides of what we would consider darker side of humanity. Well, they had the same thing there. And Planet 3, incidentally, was the only one, in my experience, that had a type of fiat currency.
Was there ever a time that you or any of your buddies, like where you wanted to abandon IDARF and go live
Go native?
like Avatar?
No.
No?
For one thing, we could be tracked, and there was no escaping that.
That's true.
And the consequences of doing such, time is an illusion. And to be able to reconfigure some of the entertainment value of the holographic systems that we used to a punishment was a very real possibility. And so you could end up spending 5 years in your mind in a prison, isolated, or any number of other punishments, where in the reality of it, it lasts 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour.
So one of those would be enough to
Make you not ever want to do it again.
Yep.
And so, to go native and to go off the farm and join the indigenous population, I'd say out of any of the places that would have been attractive to me personally, it would have been Planet One, and maybe even some parts of Calidus 3 before the wars on both planets.
Is there anything that you saw that showed their own personal genius, things that they made or created that
Oh, yeah.
would indicate that, that wasn't the same as on Earth?
Sure.
Yeah. Could you describe that?
Some of the artwork on Planet One that lined the streets, if you can imagine the Jules Verne industrialized sub and all the dials and brass and a very interesting and unique mechanisms. Some of the artwork that these artists produced were like, it truly was a work of art and inspiring in that it incorporated a certain machine materialism with natural shapes. And so that in itself was an inspiring view, and they were everywhere. They were all over the place. The whole city was decorated with it.
On an intelligence level, how would you rate them? Equal to us?
I would say that they had every bit of intelligence as we did.
How about on Planet 2? Same thing?
Same thing. Planet 2 is the same
How
way.
about the insectoids? Were they intelligent?
Very.
Very intelligent. And
Very
the Cyclopeans?
Yep. They also were.
Again, comparable to us today?
Yep.
And they only have one eye. So they don't have three-dimensional vision.
Nope.
That would seem that humans and the insectoids would have a great advantage over them.
So the Cyclopeans, because they only had a single eye, eliminated their depth perception. Now, in place of that, their empathic abilities and being able to feel, and when I asked about that, their ability to energetically feel things in their environment was how they explained that's how they compensated for it.
Right.
The insectoids had something of a leg up because of their developed telepathic abilities, in that, the process of carrying on a conversation between two people requires thinking, communicating internally to your voice box and your mouth and your lips and your tongue, and then forming the words, and then it's a process. Whereas if you can remove that entire need for the communication to happen, you have a lot faster, clearer communication.
Sure.
And so, along with the ability to communicate in a language, you can also communicate with images, with feelings, with a whole host of other things that are cut out of the act of just talking.
I see what you mean.
I see what you mean, literally.
Literally. So you'd think that would have given the insectoids a great advantage in the war and that they would win.
Absolutely.
How come they didn't?
Numbers.
You overwhelmed them.
Well, they were, the insectoids were outnumbered by the Cyclopeans and the humanoids. And, they all three were residents of Planet 3. And so, while they had reached a tenuous coexistence, there were still conflicts at the borders or over certain territories or over certain resource rights. And so, they're 1 against 2. And the reason why they hadn't been destroyed, I think, was because they had their telepathic abilities, which meant that they were able to also monitor, read, hear what the humanoids and the Cyclopeans never said.
Right.
So it definitely gave them a huge leg up in intelligence in all number of fields.
We strategize in our wars and everything according to our abilities, right? How fast we can run, how good we can shoot, and all that kind of thing. The insectoids are a completely different species than us. So what was the difference in the way that they strategize as opposed to how we would strategize?
One of the very important things to keep in mind right off the bat is that what is considered to be logic and reason to a humanoid is not the case when it comes to an alien species, even if it's an alien humanoid, but especially so for an alien insectoid. You have in the alien insectoid race, a entity that thinks differently. They have psychic abilities. They have the ability to climb up walls and on ceilings. Their entire development through the eons followed a different track.
Thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay, for having me. I'm super appreciative of the opportunity to be here.
And you've been watching Cosmic Disclosure. I'm Jay Widener, and thanks for watching.
Coming this season on Cosmic Disclosure.